As promised tonight, Interior Cabinet Secretary Joseph Ole Lenku now joins us in studio to tell us more about the country's security and in the aftermath of the Westgate Mall attack. Thank you very much. You know, this is a busy time for you. Thank you for making time for us. And before we go to him, of course, the News Poll segment tonight is based on that. We are seeking your views on the recent happenings that is following the Westgate terror attack. Are you satisfied with the government's handling of the Westgate terror attack crisis? Do you feel things should have been handled differently or not? Well, send your views to 22422 and we'll read some of them during and at the end of this bulletin. And that is where I begin with the news poll.
Yes.
As the Cabinet Secretary Interior, do you think it should have been handled differently, or do you regret the way you handled it?
I think we have done very well, Hussein. When we called, or when experts from much more developed country came in and saw the tragedy, they gave us the opinion that this will take between 7 and 10 days. Mm-hmm. And at that juncture, we say, no, we are going to do this as a Kenyan operation. And actually, we kept everybody aside and did it as Kenyan. So when we achieved the 4 days, or just before 4 days, what we did, I think really our forces have tried. And when we receive some discouragement, even when some have given their life to it, it put them into some situation that there's a bit of insensitivity. Mm-hmm. We, however, recognize that a lot of Kenyans really rallied behind us, and that gave us a lot of energy. So I think we did very well.
You did very well.
Yeah.
You don't regret anything?
Absolutely not.
Okay. Let's deal with the latest now. We're still, Kenyans are still asking, what is the fate of the terrorists, which you said were about 10 to 15. First of all, how did you come up with that number of about 10 to 15?
You know, we got some CCTV footage of in the mall. And we keep on seeing some different faces and some people coming in and all that. From that, we could suspect that there could be between 10 to 15 terrorists. From the CCTV footage? Yes. So you could see the terrorists very well in the CCTV footage? No, that's what you're saying? We cannot say very well because it was the footage, they destroyed some of the CCTV points. These are people who apparently seem to have known the building very well. Mm-hmm. So when we were looking at the activities, they're not properly feasible. So that is why we are giving only an estimate. Based on what you saw? Yes. From the footage? Yes. My question then is... And from, of course, expertise analysis. You know, we had some experts who are analyzing that footage with us. Mm-hmm. And therefore, they gave an opinion to say, looking at this, looking at the movement, most likely it's between this and that. 10 to 15. The figures we gave, yes. And you still cannot say what their who they are and how they look like? Not quite, because you're still saying we wait for the forensic that's investigations. The point. But you said you had the footage and you saw about 10 to 15. We saw a number of people, and remember in the footage there were also people being evacuated and people moving, so it may not be with precision because you may not distinguish exactly who was moving in, coming in for business, and who is coming in as a terrorist. So that is why the figure is not with certainty. So it could be more than 10 to 15? It could also be less. Or it could be less than 10 to 15? Yes, yes. So you said 5 were killed in the operation? Yes. How was that confirmed? This was determined by the people who are carrying on the actual execution of the work. There were military men who were chasing these people, and from the feedback we were getting, we established what we are calling central command point, where we are constantly being updated on what is happening in the building, what they see, what is happening, their movement, and all that. So out of our people who are inside the building, they were able to give us with certainty that they strongly feel that they hit 5 people, or rather 5 people were in the building. They hit 2. We think the building collapsed on the others. On the other 3? Yes. The other terrorists or the other 3? The other terrorists. The 10 to 15 now? You're saying the whole number? Yes. So why are you saying 5 to 3 then? You killed 5. Why we believe 5 were the one who were killed, or who are directly involved in exchange of fire. We do not rule a possibility that when we're evacuating people in the first stages of the operation, it is possible some could have slipped out. And that is why we are holding a number of people for interrogation. That is why we immediately sealed out the points of exit, the airport. And we still think from the people we are holding in custody and investigating, we'll get some leads. We have also said that we have taken statements from 156 people who are part of the Westgate people we rescued. These people are giving us extremely useful information.
Okay.
From those leads, we think we are making some very good progress.
I like this to have a flow. I'll take you back again to the 5 that you're saying you killed. I want a confirmation. You're saying 2 were killed, 2 were shot, yeah?
Yes.
And the rest, the building collapsed on them, or 5 were shot?
What was happening when the operation was being executed, we were getting information from our people on the number of people they are saying they're running after and all that.
Right.
We ascertained at some juncture that there were exactly 5. As the operation continued, or at that point, we made sure that there was no people getting out of the building. We sealed all the exit points. So we are sure the 5 which were spotted by the military men never got out of the building. Whether they died in exchange of fire.
But I mean, the question, yes, I understand you, but the question people would like to know, who died in the exchange of fire and who died after a building collapsed on them?
No, we can.
The 5 or 2 among the 5?
You know, these people had very strong firepower. And when we were hitting and they're also trying to hit back, it will not be possible at this juncture to determine exactly how they died. But we were sure they never got out of the building.
Okay,
and we are asking, let this forensic investigation establish the exact truth.
Although you told me earlier that there was an exchange of fire and 5 were killed. But do you have their bodies? Do we have their bodies, the 5?
We believe going forward that they will be true when we get the rebels finally out. But we don't have them as we talk now. We would have given you those long time ago. So we think they are buried in the rubble.
The 5?
Yes.
5 bodies are buried in the rubble?
Yes.
Generally, you're saying you don't have any body of any terrorists?
That is correct.
Up to now?
We don't have their bodies, but we know they are buried there.
So all you're saying then is among the 10 to 15 terrorists,
yes,
you are sure as a government that 5 have been killed?
Yes.
Where are the other 10?
Hussein, we are saying that we have interrogated a number of people, and many people who are in the mall actually came to give us some very useful information. We are following some critical leads that will help us unravel the terrorist attack.
So it means the rest may have escaped? That's a possibility?
You don't rule out.
When this thing happened on Saturday, we've seen there is a tunnel in at the Westgate Mall, and you have also said there could be a possibility in the confusion that some people might have gotten away. Security-wise, I mean, you are the experts. How could you let that happen?
We said earlier on, and that position is correct, that we are aware there is a river that passes not very far from the Westgate. Water from the building normally drains into that. That is one of the potential point of exit from the building, and is one of the points we say we sealed all the exit and entry points. So we are sure they never got out through that.
At what point did you know about the tunnel?
Sorry?
At what point did you know about the tunnel?
You know, when we came in to secure the whole building, we cannot give you the exact timing, but we were able to establish that.
What about day? Because this lasted for about 5 days.
The first day.
On a Saturday?
Yeah.
But not during the initial stages?
What do you mean?
Like immediately the attack happened, did people go and rescue and start exchanging fire, or there were some who were told go and guard the exit points as well? You know,
when we must also mention that the response by our security personnel was exceptionally good. In less than 30 minutes, the police were on the site when we got news of the attack. And the numbers were big enough because, as we said, the country has been on some alert and security has been heightened in the country. So the response was such that in a short while, we had enough policemen on site. When the military came by about 2 p.m., that is an hour, 2 hours after the attack, it is at that juncture that we made sure that all the exits and entry into the points were blocked and the crowds were moved out of the scene of crime.
So let me get this straight then so that we move on with the interview. As the minister, you're telling me there's a possibility that some of the terrorists may have escaped. Is there a possibility?
You know, you don't rule out. You don't rule out because when these people were making the attack or terrorism activities is also a brain game. So these people are also very careful and normally will make the attack on an organized way. So for them to try and find their exit is logical. So we don't rule out.
You don't rule out that?
We don't rule out.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the number of terrorists that you are sure that have been killed, but their bodies are still in there, you say?
5.
Are 5. Yes. Meaning we're not sure about the other 10.
Yes. But you're not saying exactly the 10. We are saying a possibility between this and
so
this.
So that's a possibility of 5 to 10 then. We don't know if they're still there.
Correct.
Or we are not sure about that.
Correct, Hussein.
Let's talk about the operation, because this is about the operation, the result of the operation. First of all, did the police need the KDF in the operation?
We think they need the KDF because terrorism is a global problem. Terrorism is not like a small, some thieves coming to steal from a building and all that. These are people, or terrorism is such that it can do so much damage and harm that you will require some reinforcement and some force. If you look at the military equipment, the anti-personnel carriers, and these are the bulletproof vehicles and all that, the police do not have that kind of equipment. And therefore, to make sure that we completely bring this situation to control, we needed stronger armory or stronger arms for that. And that is why you saw the anti-personnel carrier machines coming from our military. So it was necessary to have the military.
And some say from the sources of what happened, and in all the confusion, there was a breakdown in command during the operation.
That is not correct. I can give you my word, and this is the correct position, that Kenyans should know that there was no breakdown in command. We had a central command point where we were, both the military and police chiefs and ourselves, where we were coordinating the activities. We allowed the military to get into the building and carry the inside job and even cordon the immediate building. The police were doing the outer cordoning and the control of crowds. So it was a very systematic and very orderly way of making sure that the situation is properly attended to.
But at this juncture, I think it's important for me to also say, Kenyans have said that with all due respect, the security agencies did a good job. It's not like I'm saying they did not do a good job. And we saw some died for this country, and the rest, of course, who fought for Kenya. So I'm not saying at all they didn't do a good job. But when this thing happened, on Saturday, the police are the first people who were there, right? And they went in. Now, sources say they already cornered these terrorists until the military came in and said they are the ones now that they're taking charge, and the police had to be removed out of the building. And you're telling me yourself it's the military that were inside and the police that were outside. So there must have been an exchange at some point.
No, that is not correct, Hussein. The police came in first, did the rescue, put the situation to control, and the military arrived. When the military arrived, we had to take a decision strategically to say, how do we handle this problem?
So let me just
it is at that juncture we decided to organize a transition from the police coming out and the military going in.
At that point, just like you've said, the police came in and took control
of the situation.
What do you mean when they say they took control? They cornered these people? They had already cornered them? Or what do you mean?
You wouldn't per se say cornered them. But by the police coming and the reinforcement was stronger, we were able to get a lot of hostages out of the building. And therefore, we will say that will amount to, like, say, first aid, if I may use such a word.
Right.
Or to bring the situation to the site of crime to a situation where many hostages can be told, now you can wake up and get out.
Right.
So at that time, when the military arrived, we took a strategic decision to say, how do we go about it? We say, since we have the police already inside and we have the KDF here, it is easier for command purposes to divide the task. So that is at that point we withdrew the police from inside the building and allowed the military to go in.
And many then say, again, I'm not saying the security agencies did not do their job, but many then say at that point, that is where everything went wrong, because time is of essence. You will agree with me if in such an operation. If you have police already inside and, like you say, they've managed the situation at that point, and then you exchange and get the military inside and the police outside, there is some time there.
I think it is
given these attackers time to plan again.
I think it is very easy for you to say, others say, when you are out there, it is very different from when you are in the actual site. The factual position is, and from a security point of view, it was a strategic decision for us to make that move. And therefore to say, others say,
it's what Kenyans are saying.
Kenyans need to trust their security agencies. We
Exactly.
made it clear that this is a multi-agency operation, and therefore, for purposes of command and direction, it was necessary to have a
The police
specific
will
unit handling a specific area. Otherwise, if you are to have the police running side by side with the military, that is not strategic. And,
So
and
that's
that would have resulted in a lot of casualties among our own people
So that
from
move,
friendly fire. So that was the correct
that
move.
move you don't regret?
Absolutely not.
Because the question I'm not saying, in fact, let's leave what Kenyans are thinking. I'm asking you because you told me the police were inside and the military then came in, took a strategic decision to withdraw the police. I'm talking about that time.
You
that
know the
interval.
police.
How crucial was that interval
Know
when
the
you withdrew the police and brought in the military?
The police were only handling the first and ground floor to stop any movement out of the building. And therefore, it's not like they had already combed the building, then you have to start it from zero.
Right.
Remember, the gap between the police coming in and the military is barely an hour. And the process of rescuing people was also taking time at the same time. So by the time we take a retreat, it is at the time where we said we have gotten so many people out, how do we now go comping the building? Then we took that decision. But that decision again was taken by the Central Command team, which both the military, the police, myself and the Cabinet Secretary for Defense were part of that team. Yes.
The hostages were in the building. Were there any hostages? You said so yourself, there are about 30 hostages in the building. Kenya Red Cross says they have received, so many families are calling them and saying their people, they haven't seen their people. And of course, the Kenya Secretary General of the Kenya Red Cross, Abbas Gulet, says by that it doesn't mean that necessarily their people are inside. But clearly there were hostages. That is why the president even said the security agencies have a delicate balance of getting the attackers and also making sure that the hostages are safe. Since Monday, there hasn't been any hostage.
No, when we gave the figure of hostages, Hussein, at the start of the operation, there were hostages. And people were calling and saying, I am in a boot of a car number this, please come and help me. Others were calling to say, we were in this floor, locked up in a store, please come and help us. And a number of hostages, a number of people were saved, even in the second day. But I want to emphasize this. There were also some people who were misleading us. Take this for example, and this is real. Somebody calls and say, we are in 4th floor, we are 20 of us, locked up in a room, please come and help us. Our military take the risk, go to 4th floor, break this cold room, and found there's nothing. When we follow up the number that called us, we found the number is in Malindi. So we were dealing with a situation where there were peddlers of lies, at the same time people misleading the operation, and possibly even supporters of the terrorists. So not every information that was coming out is correct information. But people there were hostages, and hostages were rescued. I want to touch something on this issue of missing persons, and Red Cross saying they have a number of these. Kenyans need to understand where and who has the capacity to help in this situation. For 3 consecutive days, we have been urging Kenyans, as their security people, that if you have a missing family member, please go to the police and report. We have set a Visa Oshual Center for Missing Persons. Originally, very many people came in the first days to say, we have these missing family members. And we took record of that. Many of those all of those family members found their family members either in hospitals, unfortunately others in mortuaries. That is at the time we came and say, we don't have missing persons. But consistently, we keep hearing from Red Cross, we have missing person. I personally call Gulet and say, what is this missing person story? Can we share? We went again in our news briefing and told Kenyans, please report missing persons. You know, Hussein, that every time there is a missing child, they go to the police station and report. Why is this not being reported to the police? But this is the point. Kenyans must learn to use the government machinery to do their report. And this is the machinery.
There was a center.
In a village, listen, in a village, you go to your chief, you go to other leaders, you go to a police station, you go to that. So we want to ask all players in this for the good of the country, because you create a lot of pain if we say we are having missing person and there's no record. As a government, we are very, very concerned because we care for the life of our people. We care for the anxiety that comes out of some people saying we have missing people. Who is this? They would have come to you and you tell us this person have even reported to this media house. Why are they? Hussein indicated the information we have, not Hussein, Gulet, Abbas. When I asked him, what is this? Abbas, what is he said, the information we have is still not verified. We want to verify.
Which is true. But
now that is not verified, I don't think it's right for it to be put authoritatively that they are missing persons. Those are really just allegations.
Okay.
And therefore, let us use the proper machinery, the proper procedure.
This was an emergency situation. This is an emergency situation. There was a center set up specifically for that.
Yes.
Who was manning that center? The Kenya Red Cross?
No. That center was not manned by the Kenya Red Cross. That center was being manned by us, the police, the visa official. And that is what we're saying, we have exhausted that. And you know, for now, from the time this happened to date, that is more than 7 days. So it's no longer an emergency. We have come severally to say they're not there. And that is the correct position. So Kenyans need to know that the actual position, we don't have missing persons out of this tragedy.
What you're saying is that we don't expect to get anybody even under the rubble. Or you haven't, there's no report from any person that
we say nobody has reported missing persons.
Missing persons.
Even all the bodies in the hospital, people have come to claim them.